out. There, so we're both on. So that's that, right? Okay. My name's Tim Darmbrook, and this is Georgina Speaks, and it's the second segment of a podcast that we did the other day regarding wasted tax dollars. And the subject matter of what we're doing now is the indirect lakefront fiasco, is our lovely term for it. And so I guess where did we leave off, Martin? Let me just turn this around a little bit so I can go like this. So you're not behind the screen, yeah. I kind of actually want to be able to see you when we're talking. So, okay, so I started making some notes so that we could start off a couple of housekeeping issues. The other day, I don't think we discussed it on the, somebody mentioned before I start that you should talk a little bit, Martin, about who you are, Martin Nash.
Yeah.
He happened to have been my broker in 1982 when I started in real estate, and he's been my conscience ever since. I still maintain that. So can you give a little history of your experience with real estate and the land? And
well, I can do that. I've been all but 4 years here in Georgina of my life, and
how many years?
Then you're going to add it up, aren't you?
We already know, I think.
A long time.
63 years you've been in Georgina, yeah?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So birthday at the end of the month here.
Oh, right.
Anyways, it's kind of nice to be back here doing this. I've always been interested in the lakefront properties, and I always felt that there was lots of confusion around them as a realtor. And if you ever are going to buy a waterfront, make sure you get a good realtor, because there's so many variables, as we're going to be discussing, that you really, you got to talk to your lawyer, and you got to know approximately what's going on, because it is confusing. You have to kind of give both sides of the story when you're selling a property. You say, well, we think you have this, and we think you have that, but you may not. And full disclosures very difficult to give on these lakefront properties, because they're all so different. And I think you're going to prove today that some people have deeded rights and they have good titles. Some people don't have good titles, and it's kind of a real mess. So when you're selling them, it's rough. So anyway, just a little bit more. I've been in real estate since 1975 here, and a broker since 1978, and still currently selling real estate. So
and keeping with my bad habit of remembering everything, John Dench put you into the business, yes?
Way back in 1975, yeah.
And that's where you met your wife. She was working there?
Not there, but in a real estate office.
In real estate, yeah, okay. All right, and that would be Barb.
That's right.
Yeah, okay. So thanks, Martin. I just people asked about your credentials. Everybody knows your name.
Yeah.
And but it's gotten to be a big town now, and so thank you for that.
Yeah.
A couple of
kind of a local yokel here. I got my Keswick jacket on, and I'm all ready to go.
That's for sure. We've got to have that. So, a little housekeeping issue that I want to address. What happens is Martin and I keep getting calls. When we're doing this sort of thing, and people say, "Well, what about this and what about that?" Or they raise flags about towns' bad habits or towns, And so I generally like to look into them to be sure. And so one of them that was brought up to me was the town passed a COVID relief fund for businesses, and it's $7,500 for a qualifying business. And the person that brought it up to me said, "Oh, there's counselors that have businesses, and they're probably getting it themselves, like all the boogeymen that conspiracy theorists raise." And so I reviewed the program. It's a good program. It's just actually about the right size for this area for small businesses. $7,500 grant if you qualify for it, if you've had losses and anybody who's in business in town has had losses during this. So, and the total program is $250,000, and it seems to be well thought out and well spent. So if you have your own business and you've lost a lot of money and you're struggling a bit, and with many cases it'll likely make the difference whether they close the doors or not. And
that's exactly where we don't want anybody to lose their business because of this. It's hard to make business on your own anyway, and if you don't have a big profit margin, this COVID is certainly likely taking it away.
Yeah.
And then you're looking at, well, why am I doing this? So lots of entrepreneurs work their 14-hour days, and if you can't can't even make the ends meet, then there's not much sense in doing
Yeah,
it. So
why bother?
we don't want to lose those businesses because they're vital to our
No,
community. Yeah.
they're the ones that keep our community afloat, actually, and they pay a good tax dollar to the town as businesses too. So
Yeah, and then for us locals, we like to shop locally.
Yeah.
And you know, we don't want to see them going out because you know, I look forward to going into the various shops and trying to get stuff instead of going to the big box stores. You know,
Yeah.
I go locally first, and if I can't get it, then I go somewhere else. But it's nice to have them here. And
somebody mentioned another program that's two thumbs up.
yeah.
Tip of the hat to council. It's a good idea, staff. So that's that. I had another one. There was another business assistance program that brought up, and someone brought up Zebo. Frank's got a business in town, and Dan Fellini's got a. They're probably whatever. Somebody actually made allegations, eh?
Yeah.
and of course they were just they turned out to be false, and I'm really reluctant to truck in that kind of, you know, rumors and that kind of stuff, because they're easy to start. They're easy to get people to believe them, and it's public accusations and private apologies.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I happen to know that every one of those counselors gets up every morning wondering what can they do for Georgina today. I don't have any beefs about that. I don't ever think any of them are. I just disagree with what their group conscience is doing these days.
Yes.
You know, so I want to be really clear about that. There's not a crooked one among them that I'm aware of, and until I could say for sure I did that I would never make an allegation like that.
No, of course not. No.
So, getting on to the good stuff, one other item that I brought up, because we talked about the studies that were done, the Airbnb, 100,000 for nothing, the boundary realignment, 100,000 for information we already had, whatever. So those two we talked about that the other day.
Right.
Someone brought to my attention that internet company that's the town was participating in to have internet in town, ILS. I can't remember what the initials are because I can't barely remember my own name. So the town actually loaned them $1 million over the course of the revolution, and then they ended up having to take them over and write that million off. Now that did happen, I think, in 2012. Now it's all this time later. All of the technology and equipment that they developed over the time of that is obsolete. It was done 10 years ago.
Right.
Now they're talking about sinking start with 35,000, but up to 200,000 into it. So basically they have something that's useless, so they're going to start all over again.
Yeah.
And that's something I think would be irresponsible. They would be better just to call it quits, and that's just my take on it as a business person. And sometimes the people are smart enough that when something goes wrong, call it a day, and you lose the least. And sometimes when you lose the least, you win. You know, like that's a win. So
Well, we've got a few of the examples of that around here.
we've lived.
But we're not going to
We've
cover
lived
them all
yeah,
today.
yeah. Been there, done that. So that's the internet services, and I'll address that. Somebody's getting their hands on the budget for me, and I'll address that when we decide we want to do this again.
Yeah, I was reading a little bit about that this morning, but not enough to be able to say anything about it because
okay.
I didn't have time to read the council's minutes and stuff on it.
I had a good argument yesterday on Facebook with a dear friend of ours,
Oh yes.
Ted Garden.
Oh yes.
Yeah. Well, he weighed in on it, and we get into a hell of an argument about not riling people up with fake news. He called it fake news, and I was shocked at him quoting Donald Trump. So I kind of kidded him about that. But we had a hell of a back and forth about it, and it was actually a healthy one. I was happy to have it because he's a guy who knows.
Yeah.
He's a surveyor, and what he admitted was there is no possible property description, meets and bounds for no description for the road allowance. Number two, it is a road allowance that we're talking about.
Right.
So the people I've talked to, and he couldn't say one way or the other, but the legal people I've talked to, if that becomes public property, then the town cannot say, well, we'll let those people go on it, but we won't let those people. Like it comes under the auspices of public property, and it's governed by the rules of public property, not private property rights or private property owned by anybody.
Right.
So the town. So that was that, and so I really appreciated Ted having that argument. Ted and I will always end on good terms no matter what, because we're quite respectful of one another abilities and opinions, and yeah.
Well, these are the guys that are going to be involved. You're going to have appraisers and
Yes.
surveyors and who knows, legal. You're going to have everybody involved in this program, and it's going to be. It should be a fun thing.
Yep.
It'll be quite a.
I think it demonstrated really good that, like, I think Ted might, and I, well, let me tell you what the argument in the end was, what he was calling fake news, because I kept calling it a 50-foot road allowance, 50-foot road allowance, and he said that's not true. It's 60 foot in some places. It's this foot. Yeah. So then in the end we agreed, okay, it's, I stand corrected. There are places when it's so, but it's either or. So you have a 50-foot. So, but no matter where it is, you've got the 20-foot travel portion. And you add on both sides, whatever the 50 or 60, whatever it is.
Right.
So that's what the town was originally taking over. That's what was being developed for the town. That's a road allowance. And the road, so that was that. And thank you, Ted, for that. I appreciated the input because it helped me clear up some of the misconceptions that were my own, actually. So, okay, so that's kind of housekeeping done as far as I'm concerned. So, what do you know about the bike path?
I don't know anything about that, but I wanted to. We can bring.
We'll deal with that after. Did you have something you wanted first?
I wanted to talk about like title insurance for some of these people along.
Yeah.
It's a real estate thing to it. When you buy your property, look at your lawyer's package that they give you, and there's a insurance. They usually do what's called a title insurance.
Yeah.
Now, lots of times they exclude the waterfront because they know it's a mess. However, not all of them have excluded it, and some are valid, some aren't. I don't know which ones are because I'm not a lawyer, but you might want to just for those owners that might listen to this, look up your title insurance policy and see what it says, because if there's a questionable title, these people have millions and millions of dollars to look after it.
Well, it's funny. I actually, after I talked to you about that this morning, because you had mentioned it to me when I was on my way to my meeting with Diane Henderson.
Right.
And she's given me all the documentation that she has, and she's been in contact with a number of other people that I'm meeting with now. And I mentioned that to her, and she seems to think that there's one or two that title insurance didn't exclude the waterfront issue because
right.
of what they thought that they had title, and so that wasn't an issue, and the owner thought, and so it's title insured for that title. So once our lawyer gets involved and makes it a title issue, and not the town thinking that they own it.
Right.
And the residents admitting they own it, like that kind of thing. So it becomes a title dispute. Then there's a purse there that can be drawn upon.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And a lot bigger than anything that we could do, I'm sure.
There's quite a chunk actually set aside already for legal proceedings. They were just, the residents were moving ahead in good faith trying to get it resolved. So they were hoping not to have to do that. But it's clear that's going to have to happen now. So. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So the bike path you were talking about, I'm not.
Well, there was a couple other points that you had talked to a lawyer that we were familiar with.
It's just the argument about if the town owns it or thinks they own it, then it's public property, which means that I can go anywhere along that Lake Drive and set up my picnic table and have fun. And if they don't. We've always thought the adjacent properties had the right to use it. Well, if the town says that they've used it, we haven't been able to use it all these years. Yeah. And who's compensating for that? All these people that live in Keswick by the lake or near the lake. Yeah. You should have had a right to use these properties. Well, yeah. If the town owned them.
That issue, the issue that the town had no right to publish on their website, that the people across the road are the only ones that can use it. The town. Shouldn't have done that.
No, because if it's public property, you can't exclude people from public property.
That's a good segue into what we're talking about next, because, and I think I have a little history I built up, because when I can't sleep at 2 a.m, you know what I'm doing, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so Perphala Post, and I got to tell you, my hats are so off to Karen Wolf, because her and I have argued blue in the face about different things, and I never showed her Perphala Post as much respect as I should have, and I found that out in recent days.
Yes.
Because I used to tease her about a little magazine, a little whatever. But let me tell you, any issue I've come up with, if I knew around what time it happened, I could go on the or the Georgina Post archive, 2015, and they're talking about a bike path and walkway all around the lake. And they made the mistake of actually mentioning it, so talking about it. And Daryl Blanchard, I think, is quoted here talking about the concerns about it. And so I brought it up to Margaret, the mayor, at Tim Hortons around 2016. We were sitting there. I said, you know what the town's up to with that? She said, oh, no, no, they don't. They just want to get the title cleaned up. So that's what happened, and it's right in the Pefferlaw Post right there that was already their plan since then. So out of that article, I got the name of the plan for the bike path from Richmond Hill all the way up and around the lake, right?
Right.
So I went on the York Region website, and guess what I found? It says right on there. Oh, you can't read it because it's bad. But, oh no, you can read it. It says walkways, walking trail, and bicycle lane, right? So, and on there for the entire bike, it has all the maps.
Right.
In relation to the different municipalities. So I click on Georgina on the York site, and lo and behold, there is the map that they have for where the walking path and bike path are going to go.
Well, that's interesting.
Yeah, so I just wanted, and this is funny because if you go to the map that they just published 2 days ago about their whole project, in which they stated we're the owners and we're going to be kind enough to let those people still play on the property.
Right.
Their map, oddly enough, it's the same. So they've included all that property and committed it to a regional project already.
Right.
And they've put in for future enhancements. Yeah, the same map. It's the same map. It's a walkway. So now here is my point, and I'll let you take a look at that, Martin. Let me hand it. You have a look at that. So here's my point. The town's already got it. That's what they're doing. They're never going to sell these people the property. They said so the other day in the article. They didn't say it so directly, but what they said, is we don't want to stop them from going on the property. So that means we own it.
Right.
And they don't. But they're acting like they do. And now that they've stated they own it, when there's a walkway on the road, I had this argument with Ted yesterday, and he had to concede that, okay, if you're describing a walkway and the town's describing it as going all the way down to the lake, even though the road's supposed to stop here,
right?
If that's a road allowance and there's a walkway, everybody in Toronto can come here and set up their picnic basket on that public property.
Right.
Period.
Right.
So that is what the town's doing. They're trying to they want to open in the front of everybody's property to the public.
Right.
And as far as I understand, the mayor actually has that on one of her list of legacies.
Right.
The waterfront issue, and letting everybody from Toronto come up and park in front of everybody's property. That's exactly and that map shows that is what their plan is.
Right.
So I wasn't, stirring up a bunch of stuff for nothing. I wasn't using misfacts just to get people going. It's a fact. They've actually put it in writing. They developed a map for it, and the map is exactly the one that they produced the other day, and it's incorporated into the regional plan already.
Right.
So the town's already got these people's property committed into a regional plan.
Right.
Okay, so
Which they.
So I'm not losing my mind then.
No, I don't think you are.
Okay, good. So I want to be really clear about that because I have been accused from time to time. Actually, you know what? I did lose my mind quite a long time ago, and I don't miss it. Okay, so that's that, and just.
Well, that's interesting. I didn't know that. I mean, this is news to me.
Yeah, I know. I didn't mean to. Yeah. I didn't mean to sandbag
but
you
it's
with
an
that.
excellent. We're wondering why. Well, I was asking that question earlier. Why are we poking the bear? Why is this coming up again?
That's why.
Yeah. And boy, there's my answer right there.
Yeah, the mayor's already got the mayor's already made commitments to.
Because I couldn't figure out why they're poking that bear. I mean,
that's on the region website for bicycle walkway.
Yeah.
All the way along the people's on these. So everybody in the world can go now. Everybody that's owned those properties for 150 years. This is the same nonsense that they were doing with the development charges.
Right.
They were just So anyway, that's that.
Well,
And,
that's quite a revelation for me, anyways, and I'm sure for any of the people that are going to look at this.
So if you are, can I
now
just
I know
make
why.
a? Yeah. So I would like to mention that if you are a property owner involved in this whole process, you're welcome to message me on Facebook, and I'll send you whatever documentation the links for this stuff, and you can look at it for yourself. And if I'm wrong, send me a notice saying, Timmy, you're losing it. And I'll be more than happy to have the discussion, much like I did with Ted yesterday. We got into it, we had the discussion, the argument, whatever you want to call it, good, healthy debate. And that's what's going to lead to the resolution on this.
Well, it's funny. There is a bigger history that I'm not exactly aware of, but that Lake Drive from Church Street to say Boyer Side Road or wherever, Metro Road used to be called Lake Drive, I believe.
Yeah.
And so that was the Lake Drive that was going to service.
And before that, it was the Metro train.
Yeah, that's way. Now you're going way back before
way back.
me. Yeah. But I don't know where I was going with that.
We're doing another episode of Grumpy Old Men 3.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. So,
but anyway, it was the lake, this road allowance slash whatever pathway slash private road slash
cow path,
whatever it is, was to service the properties on the lake, and it was like horse and buggy down this little pathway along the lake so that they could be serviced there with food or whatever they were doing, or even to get to their properties. And all their access was from Metro Road, which was
I think
so they didn't really. It was kind of a haphazard thing way back in the 1800s. They didn't do it right, and so we've had this problem for a long, long time.
Yeah, 100%. So one thing is for sure, the people that developed that road, they didn't do it for the town.
No.
They didn't do it. We want to make sure we give lots of property to the town. They were building a road. The whole function of it is a road allowance. Nobody argues about that.
Right.
The description of the road allowance. Now the towns, because there's some ambiguity, they're acting like, oh no, even though we're getting our road, we want the rest too, and they meant to give it to us. It's just nonsense.
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense.
No, it doesn't make any sense. And the reason is they've never got clear title is because the town hasn't pushed it. And so that nobody's challenged it. Well, they're pushing it now, and it's going to be challenged. And I got to meet with the lawyer. I'm supposed to get a call later today, and I have a number of people that are putting money into, and I've agreed to spearhead the effort, and just get all the questions answered. We need a 3-judge panel in divisional court to review the beauty of it is, and I'm kind of crazy that way, but I love reading legal decisions, because judges. They're always just trying to do the just thing.
Yeah.
So, but they got to identify everybody's rights that are involved. Then they got to identify the governing legislation. Then they got to identify the legal principles that apply, and then balance the competing legal principles in legislation and subordinate legislation, and there's a number of legal principles. And in this case, one of the most predominant ones will be the principle of legitimate expectation. And that is where, and it was one of the primary ones that I won that I beat the town on for the development charges, because of the way that they had behaved and the way they'd done things in the past. And then all of a sudden they did them differently because they didn't, I don't know why the person didn't do the proper protocol, because they were just they were in a deadline. If they didn't get the development charge passed by that time, there was no development charge. They were right on the schedule. And that person, I believe they made, I'd like to say honest mistake in the interest of being gracious. I mean, there was times when I thought, they did that on purpose or they were being sneaky. But the truth is, it could have been an honest mistake. But they found themselves up against the date where a bylaw had to be passed. There was no time to do proper notice or anything.
Well, I think that one was spearheaded by the region as well. Everybody else had passed the bylaw. I think Georgina might have been the last one. Don't quote me on that.
No, it's still not in Halliburton.
Well, I know I'm talking about in New York here.
Oh yeah.
And I'm not sure that they were the last one, but I think they were. But it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But I think they were under some pressure from the region again to have these things done, because everybody else in the region had done it.
Yeah.
And I believe that maybe this bike path is the same sort of thing. They're saying, hey guys, get your act together. We're all ready to go. We got people.
Yeah. So now those people are dictating what's going to happen with our taxpayers here.
Yes.
And these taxpayers paid the highest value for their properties because of what they own there.
Yeah.
And they paid the highest taxes. And taxes in this town is not.
Yeah. Well, they do their assessment based on value. Yeah. And we all know the waterfront properties have more value than the back lots, if you want to call them that. And so they've been paying higher taxes for these properties because they're waterfronts. Well, then what if they're not? So they're going to go back. How many years can they go back and say you've been overcharging me in taxes if you think you own it?
Yeah,
It's just a big can of worms.
It is a big can of worms, but I don't think it's as complicated as they're making it out to be. It's because nobody will challenge it, so they don't get any answers. And now the town thinks that they can just act like they own it, and they can't. They can't stop anybody from going there. And they know they can't stop the owners. And the legitimate expectation is that because for years and years and years, all the policies in the town staff, everybody has said, no, the people across the road, they have exclusive rights. It was not. They weren't granting them rights. They were acknowledging the rights that they already had.
Right.
And the fact that they have those rights is because they're the property across the road. Well, where is it then? The reason they have it is because the road got cut off from their property.
Yeah.
So the one on the other side's theirs.
Yeah.
And it's just nobody's perfected title. But that brings me to a nice segue to the next. I met with Diane Henderson this morning, and she's put me in touch with a couple of people that actually took the steps to have their title perfected.
Right.
And what happened was the town was actually petitioned in that process.
Right.
And the town declined to, they actually said, no, we don't have any claim there. So, yeah.
So they've set their precedent legally in a way,
Right.
but only for a couple of properties. But that'll be an interesting one because
Yeah, so that's another aspect of it that's going to be interesting.
That might be a tip of an iceberg there.
Yeah, and then and Diane actually gave me all the documentation to support of Loopster's decision, so that's going to be helpful. So I guess on this issue, here's the biggie. We're going to embark upon a legal action now because there's no choice. And when I say we, I mean these people.
Yeah.
And for me, it's just the principle of the thing.
Yeah.
And it's something I believe in, so I'll be pursuing it on their behalf. And when I went at this with my problem that I had with them, I tried to sit down in the beginning, tried to work it out, and I pretty much got laughed out there because we got a big purse. Go ahead and try to beat us. Yeah. And I did. Yeah. So, but it cost the town $500,000 in legal fees. And this is going to cost the town $500,000 in legal fees too. Yeah. Or more because of the, and the point is that the residents, in the interest of being fair, have made an offer and the town accepted it. And then they didn't backpedal, they just kind of sneakily worked around it so that they don't have to honor their agreement. Except out of the discussions they took, they tried to act like it was an admission of ownership.
Yeah.
And it wasn't. It was an offer in an attempt to clarify title. Yeah. And the town wasn't deeding the land. The land already belongs to them. What the town was releasing was any claim because title's never been proven.
Right.
Right. So you can't say either one owns it right now. They both have a claim. So the town would release their claim in favor of the other party. So that's what it is. It's not a deed of land. So there's that. And then the appraisals. I don't want to go through this much more because I'm just mouthing off and I don't, because I don't want to be unclear.
Right.
So that's that. So we know, I have all the old documentation that's been given to me now on that. And then I'm picking up the title, the ones from the people who had their title. Actually, their title's been perfected in land titles. Right. So then their title is absolute. And in that process, like I said, the town conceded they have no interest. Right. And that was the only way that it could be perfected. So why could they say, well, we won't claim there, but we'll claim on yours?
Right. Yeah,
right. Okay. So no, they can't do that. So it's going to be interesting. The lawyers will sort it out. And I rather, I love the legal wrangling, and it's because it's in pursuit of justice. Right. So with all the complexity of all of it, to go into that and come out of it with some justice, that'll be fun.
Well, the thing, Tim, is that like in this country, we're a democracy. We're free. We value our freedom. Yep. And our property rights are a big part of that.
Oh yeah.
And as a realtor, even more so for me because I'm selling that stuff every day. But definitely, it's a big issue because property rights. We don't have we're getting our rights stamped out all over the place. Yeah. But property rights have been a big thing.
The other point I want to make is that it's really important, and that is that there's a couple of other committees right now. There's the original committee for all the waterfront people, and then there's a smaller ad hoc committee. Daryl Blanchard, he chairs the one committee. Dave Solosky chairs the ad hoc committee, the most recent one where they made the honest offer and the honest attempt, and the town's taking advantage of it now. Right. Well, those two committees and those two guys, that's all still in effect. Some of those people are actually in support of what I'm doing and involved in what I'm doing, but those committees stand, and I'm not involved in those.
No.
And God, I hope that before the town allows us to get so carried away, behaving the way that they are, that they would just sit down with those committees and complete the deal that they agreed to in the first place,
Right.
which is what should happen.
Yeah.
That would clean up 99%, and then the odd anomalies here and there would be so easy to identify and clean up after that. So this is a clean path, thanks to the goodwill efforts of those residents.
I also, Tim, looked
Go
at the agenda. There's some public meetings with regards to the parks down, all like the township parks on
Right.
the water,
Right.
waterfront township parks,
Right.
And that should be fun too, because I like down in the south end, probably over Metro Road and Lake Drive, a lot of those properties have deeded rights to the beach.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember selling that.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, you've got a deeded right to deal with to go down to Pine Beach or all those different beaches,
Right.
And they're having studies, they're having public input on those in October. Look at the town's agenda,
Yeah.
and you'll see that they're inviting people to talk about those parks.
Yeah.
And it's kind of not the same thing, but it certainly is.
Yeah, I know
waterfront.
it is, and you have to forgive me. I have to laugh these days at the term public meeting because it's
Yeah.
not.
No.
They're only having a bunch of people show up so that later they can say, "Well, we had our public meeting," but there's no going after the will of the people there. They just stand back, let them have their say, great, and then they get the consultant in to say, "Well, you can't do that." So then they go, "Oh, I'd like to," but like for example, that they're not going to honor their agreement with the residents now. And now they put this bogus act, like they're acting in good faith. We're going to have appraisals done. They structured the appraisal so that it has nothing to do with what they're selling, to inflate the price, so that, but that's all a red herring as well. And let me tell you why. Because if you read the history and the most recent comments, especially by the mayor, we're going to have public consultation. And then when they do, she will get to say, well, the public said we can't sell it and we own it, so they're not going to sell it to them.
Yeah.
Right. So then this all is, and ladies and gentlemen, that's what you're going to be looking at. That's where the bike path is going all along your properties, and people from all over Ontario can come and picnic in front of your house based on the plan that the town already has put in place, and it's on the regional website. So, and if I'm wrong, could you please send me a message and point me to some place that says that I'm wrong? I don't mind that at all.
Yeah. It doesn't look too false.
Better
to me,
yet,
but-
get a hold of Martin. Give him. Yeah, this is all Martin's fault. I didn't want to do this. So, it's been a long old run, eh, Martin? I mean, this
Yeah.
is like going on 40 years almost. We've been monkeying around with this stuff.
Yes, at least, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's always been very confusing from, for the public and the realtors and likely the town too. And they can clean it up. They just got to do it in a decent way. That's all.
Yeah, the past councils have acted in good faith, and that's why they couldn't come to a conclusion, because within the framework of that, they couldn't find a solution.
Right.
So they didn't try to sneak around anybody.
Yeah.
They just accepted that. That's good faith.
Yes.
Yeah, and
They looked it up and said, "Boy, it looks like we
Okay.
can't do anything."
they couldn't come to an agreement, so they said, "Okay, we can't get this done." When they tried to do these efforts in the past, it was in an attempt to work something out with the owners.
Yes. Yeah.
But it was always understood that the owners had to be satisfied.
Yes.
And now this council is acting like, no, we already own it. And if you don't behave yourself, and we've already given your land to the region. Sorry, somebody's calling me because I was so stupid I didn't turn my phone off. So hello. Not bad. Don't talk too loud because I'm on my podcast and I don't want them to hear who you are, right? Well, I'll be finishing up with Martin here in about 5 minutes, and I'll call you back. Are you at the office? So did you get my message? Okay, well, I called the office and they said you're not in today. So anyway, I've met with the people involved, and they really like your services. So I'm gonna call you in about 10 minutes, and we're gonna complete the transaction. How's that? We will. Yeah, we'll look forward to talking. Thanks a lot. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks for getting back to me. All right. Bye-bye. Sorry about that. I was normally I shut my phone off. You know, Martin,
Yes.
I'm brain dead. So, thank you very much. So I think that takes us far enough further along the path. If you're on one of those other committees, Dave Solowski on the ad hoc and Daryl Blanchard, those are still standalone on their own. They're very worthwhile efforts. Everybody's well organized on them. So at any point, if the town wanted to just be reasonable, they could just make the deal and be done with it.
You could just talk.
Otherwise, we're all going to be into the town spending $500,000 to beat up a bunch of people to give their land to a bike path so that people from out of town can come in and picnic on their land. Yeah. So that's what's at stake here. Okay, so we're clear on that. How are you doing?
Excellent. I think we're pretty well done. And if anybody has anything, we would like some input. You know,
and Martin's on Facebook too. So you know, divvy up, guys. Like, get a hold of him. He's on this more probably than me because he's been at it longer. And so
yeah, all right,
we're good.
We're good.
So if you just say goodbye and hit it. Goodbye, Martin. Thank you very much.
Take care, Tim. Thanks.
Okay, guys. We'll see you soon. Thank you very much, and take care.